Michal Divon from the Khaleej Times will now moderate our next panel on investment and tech partnerships, together with Dr. Ibtasim Al-Bastaki, the Director of Investment and Public-Private Partnerships at the Department of Dubai Health, Khalid Al-Mazurki, the Director of the Commercial Enterprises at the Khalifa Industrial Zone in Abu Dhabi, and Nir Hollander, the Country Manager for Israel, Cyprus, and Greece at Nutanix.
So hello to everyone and welcome once again, and thank you to our panelists for joining us this afternoon. We are going to discuss trade, tech, and health sectors that are all driving cooperation following the Abraham Accords between Israel and the United Arab Emirates. So I would like to start with you, Mr. Khalid. Recently, Abu Dhabi Ports and Israel Manufacturing Associations signed an MOU. Now, I've seen very big figures predicted in terms of trade potential. Maybe you can share with us how you see this partnership moving forward. What sectors do you think will be driving bilateral trade?
First of all, thank you, Michael, for moderating this interesting panel. We all agree here that the relations between United Arab Emirates and Israel will definitely actually bring a lot of business opportunities. In Abu Dhabi, in the industrial zones, both Khaleej and Zonos Corp, we already have witnessed actually many such business that actually is approaching us. For example, actually, we have several meetings with the agri-tech companies. Because we understand that the technology in Israel, they are actually leading in the world. That's why it's actually something needed in UAE and also needed in the regions. While in other hands, UAE can provide the right logistic actually for the companies in order for the Israeli companies to expand globally and bring the global consumer market in one location. Now, besides sectors, I also want to highlight that what I have witnessed through our interactions with Israel, similar to UAE, almost 95% of the companies are actually coming from the SME sectors. And in Abu Dhabi, both, as I mentioned, Khaleej and Zonos Corp, we are providing the right infrastructures, creating the right ecosystem for those companies to be closer to, for example, to the raw material or to the supplier or to the service logistic in order to make sure that they are growing globally.
Now, if we're looking, this is one sector, of course, trade. I want to take it over to health. These accords were signed during a global pandemic, which we are all very much aware of. And perhaps it's symbolic that both Israel and the United Arab Emirates are now leading in the vaccination efforts. So looking ahead in health, and this question is, of course, for Dr. Ibtasim, what do you think the two countries can offer together in terms of this partnership? And what do you think we can develop and drive the vaccination effort even further?
Indeed, basically, the market here is very dynamic in the United Arab Emirates and particularly in Dubai. And there is a lot of great opportunity if you look at it from the supply and demand. And of course, this pandemic has initiated a lot of creativities and innovations in the healthcare market. So there is a great opportunity in terms of the vaccinations. And nowadays, I think the vaccine is going quite fast in terms of, of the pandemic itself. And on top of that, we are looking for further collaboration in developing more opportunities in regards to the kind of like a health innovation, genetics, vaccinations, and precision medicine, which is the future of the healthcare in this market, as well as globally. So the UAE and especially Dubai has a great interest in the next 2 to 3 years to focus on precision medicine, genetics, as well as the research and development.
Thank you. Nir, we're coming to you now, to Israel. Aside from the obvious negative effects of COVID-19, this pandemic has also offered an opportunity, especially for online service providers. You're, of course, in the space. How has COVID-19 affected your industry, also as far as Israel, and how are you looking to expand business in the region?
So I think overall what we're seeing in times of uncertainty, which is probably this time and what we're experiencing at the moment, is mostly that customers are leaning towards not committing to something, right? And this is why they're taking the path of subscriptions. Now, subscriptions can either be obtained by a service, which is what the cloud is all about, or on the other hand, you can also procure subscription on your own premises. And this is what we basically do. Everything we provide to our customers is subscription-based, which means that they can turn it on or turn it off whenever they need, whenever they want to. So that's just one vector of it. The second one is when they spend wisely, right? They want to make sure that they don't overspend or spend where they don't see any return on investment. And I think this is a time of clarification of how do we spend our budgets. This is also something that we're working together with our customers in times of uncertainty with our cloud economists. And we are providing them a clear financial I'd say, vision of how they're spending their budgets. Now, the third vector is productivity. And when everybody is working from home, organizations still need their employees to be productive. So there's a huge investment and a huge shift from working in offices to working remotely. This is, of course, it requires spending with setting up the infrastructure that supports it, either on-prem or off-prem, with cloud services or any consumed service. This is also something that we are working together closely with our customers, both existing customers and potential customers, on establishing the best way to set up that remote working procedures.
Thank you. And turning it back here to the studio, Mr. Khaled, if we focus on manufacturing in the UAE, how do you see Israeli companies positioning themselves to benefit from the free zones?
Actually, as you highlighted in the first questions, first of all, we have signed a memorandum of understanding with manufacturing associations of Israel. And the objective was actually also the objective was actually of these sessions is to reach to as much as possible of Israeli companies to showcase to them actually why UAE actually became the preferred destinations, not only as a logistic hub and also as industrial hub. So we actually would like actually the Israeli companies to take this advantage and using the ecosystem that is being created in Abu Dhabi in order for them to expand both as UAE is a big market and also GCC and the regions. Speaking about the free zones, I want to mention here that the free zone is not about only the regulations as some people know. It's actually creating the right infrastructures for the company, both soft and hard infrastructures, in order to make sure that they have the concept of actually of easy of doing business and bringing the global consumer markets to actually Abu Dhabi, since we have actually very strong when it comes to connectivities. I would like to mention here that within just 1 hour from our zones, there is 4 international airports. There is a railway that connecting the cities in UAE, this upcoming railway. And hopefully it will be connected also to the GCC railway. There is also a highway that is actually from one side connecting you to Saudi Arabia market, and the other side it goes all to the Arabian Sea. So it goes across different cities, different consumer market within UAE. So creating that ecosystem, what we did recently within our zones, we created parks, I will say, business parks within our zone. So we have, for example, polymers park, automotive, food zone. We have the logistics zone, the pharma zone. The reason why we want to create a business where the customer can come, have an access to the raw material, do the manufacturing, the suppliers there, the distributors there. So in order to make sure that he is being served within one custom bounded area, which is known as the free zone.
And we are seeing very ambitious predictions talking about even reaching $4 billion yearly when it comes to trade ties. So we will definitely be looking at that. Turning back to health once again, I think one of the first significant MOUs signed was in the health sector between Sheba Medical Center and Abu Dhabi-based Apex. So what I'm wondering, Dr. Ibtisam, how do you see both countries who are looking to really further position themselves as medical tourism destinations? Israel is already a very big medical tourism destination. Dubai is looking to become more of a medical tourism destination. How could this partnership work, and how can they help advance each other in becoming really a hub for medical tourism?
Okay, let me first elaborate a little bit about the market itself in UAE, because you really need to understand the demand and supply in this market. And plus, based on that, you need to identify the gaps and opportunities, especially if you're looking at it from the healthcare perspective. You really need to look at the various specialities that is not existing in this market. This is one where basically there is a great opportunity for the investor to come in and look at it and to invest and to become a unique. Because we have a various clients in this market, and people comes from different parts of the world, to receive their treatment from the medical tourism. Especially, we are talking about various specialty like fertility, cosmetic, dentals, and the orthopedic, and the rest. But these are the four important specialty that I have mentioned. And still, we have different specialities existing in the market. And if you look at the past, since 2012 until now, there is an increase in expenditure in healthcare sectors in UAE, and especially in Emirates of Dubai, around 12% per annum. And that's because of the mandate of the health insurance that's been existing in this market. And then, therefore, this will attract a lot of the investors to come in. And we look at it from the specialty-wise. For instance, like next 2 to 3 years, we want to invest in rehabilitation, innovative primary healthcare. We would like to invest in cardiology, in oncology. And those are the specialty where the government even looking at it from various perspectives. And the next 3 to 5 years, we would like to basically look at the investment from the genetics, what I have mentioned earlier, precision medicines, research and development, and maybe palliative care. This is one of the things that is missing in this market. And if you look at it from the other aspects, government as well encouraging a lot of public-private partnership projects where the private sectors come in hands to hands with the public sector to streamline the business, to bring a better business cases, as well as to identify the risk and to split the risk between the public and the private sector, and to have a good quality of care and efficiency and effectiveness of the services. And therefore, you can attract a better investors having their stamp in the country, where you can attract more customers towards that kind of a services. So there is a law in Dubai, it's called PPP law, with a PPP guideline, which will encourage a lot of investors to focus on various specialty when it comes to the partnership. Currently, we are working on various projects, and more projects of the PPP will come into the market, and this will attract not just only providers or investors or financials, but even though those companies, product companies, innovative company, technology company, who would like to become as a third party investing in the project itself. So it's kind of like a holistic win-win situation between the public and the private sector.
And indeed, we look forward to seeing the different partnerships and how both the health systems and services are boosted thanks to the Abraham Accords and the new opportunities that are coming forth. Sunil, back to you and to the online space. Both the UAE and Israel are seen as regional hubs for innovation. How do you envision the tech leaders collaborating on future projects and endeavors?
So I think overall, and this was discussed earlier, Israel is a big exporter for different technologies, right? The agri-tech, biotech, fintech, and defense technologies. But also on high tech, we are perceived as being the startup nation. And I'm trying not to be too vain here, but basically they say that other than the Silicon Valley, Israel has the highest number of startups per population, per size. And together with that, UAE and the Emirates overall is considered a very innovative culture and territory. So I think in parallel that we can also learn in return. There's immense activity going on at the moment with setting up the foundation for this cooperation. I'm seeing activity by banks, by legal offices, by government entities, by industry delegations. This is to set up the infrastructure to be able to support those partnerships later on. For Nutanix specifically, we are active in all verticals in both countries, in every market, I would say. The bigger verticals that we usually see are the public sector, the finance, and healthcare. As I said earlier, we're active in all three of them, and I believe that with the setup of the right infrastructure, we'll see more and more cooperation spring up.
Thank you. And I think we're seeing these collaborations across different fields. So very exciting times for us. Even during COVID, we're seeing a lot of these MOUs and partnerships start. So the sky is the limit for everything that will happen the day after, which we are all very much looking forward to. That's all the time we have, unfortunately. I'd like to thank our panel, Dr. Ibtissam Al-Bastaki, Director of Public-Private Partnerships at Dubai Health Authority. Also, thank you to Mr. Khalid Al-Marzouki, Director of Commercial at the Khalifa Industrial Zone in Abu Dhabi, also known as KIZAD, and from Israel to Nir Hollander, Country Manager, Israel, Cyprus, and Greece for Nutanix. Thank you for sharing your vision and insight with us today. Thank you.